Hi, I'm Roland Yap. I'll talk about some of my research areas. So I'm interested in quite a number of different topics. And for this talk, I'll talk about system security and AI. But there are other topics as well if you're interested. So one of the important problems is how to make software secure. So this is how can you detect vulnerabilities in software. So typical kinds of vulnerabilities would be spatial errors, temporal errors, type errors. So we'll talk about some of them. But first of all, let me remind you that vulnerabilities are everywhere and can affect anyone. So here are some of the recent vulnerabilities which are significant. Okay, Instagram bug. So I'm sure many people have Instagram. Cisco networking hardware bug, Slack bug, and a 17-year-old bug in Windows. All of these bugs can be exploited. And then defenses like sanitizers, as I mentioned, will prevent such vulnerabilities from being exploited. So spatial memory errors, aka bounce errors or buffer overflow, are one of the most important kinds of vulnerabilities. So they are commonly exploited. And we have designed a system called LowFat, which is the state of the art for bounce checking. So if we compare with Google Address Sanitizer, also known as ASAN, then ASAN is one of the most widely used bounce checkers and used heavily in Google and Chrome. So if you compare ASAN with LowFat, you can see that the overheads, compatibility, and accuracy work very well on the ASAN side, on the LowFat side. And for false positives, there's a trade-off between how much false positives you have versus accuracy. So that's LowFat. Type checking, we have effective SAN, which is the state of the art for detecting type errors, and perhaps it's the only tool which can dynamically detect type errors both for C and C++ code. So what are the challenges for software security? So how do you protect real-world software, deal with the trade-offs and complexity? So for example, some challenges are, can we get bounce checking even more efficient? Like for example, under 5% overhead. Can we get type checking to be efficient at all? So effective SAN is comprehensive, but is not yet efficient. Then binary sanitizers will be very useful for executables. Let's turn on to AI now. AI will look at constraint solving. So here constraints are also everywhere. So for example, if one is taking modules in NUS, then some modules cannot be taken together. One module is prereq for another module. So that could be an example of module constraints. Then in order to determine the correct timetable, then you have to satisfy all the constraints. You may also need to optimize. So in general, for a discrete constraint problem, now then the most general form of it would be a table constraint. Then one can ask how to solve problems with table constraints, which are called CSPs. This is as opposed to using specialized constraints like global constraints with specialized algorithms, for example, linear programming on the real numbers. Constraint solving, unfortunately, is a hard problem. Typically, it's NP complete or NP hard. So then the question is, how do you get still efficient solutions? So we have worked on table consistency algorithms, which are state of the art. Okay, they are listed on the slide. I won't repeat them. The challenge is how do you get efficient solving algorithms? How can we combine table constraints with more specialized constraints? Then finally, search is needed to combine with the constraint solver. Then how do we find good search heuristics? Can we learn robust heuristics? And so forth. Okay, thanks for listening.